Okay, it looks like we are in business. It is what time is it? It's called about time. I'm in business. I'm not taking the heat for the last couple days. I had YouTube trouble. And then I went online and I saw that YouTube was having trouble. So wasn't my allergies, it wasn't my slovenliness, it wasn't my laziness. I was ready to rumble, and sure enough, YouTube had issues. So I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, and I want to have a discussion on whether or not Adam Schefter is a devil. Are we happy for Troy Reeder? Should we sign those two free agent defensive backs? What are the Rams going to take in the draft? And I want to talk about the last fling that Roman Gabriel had with the Rams, and it wasn't at the end of 1972. I think a lot of folks forget about it. I almost forgot about it. But yeah, really good to be back. Great weekend. Thank you for everyone that's kind of reached out a little bit and clicked on and such, and asking me why did you do a show? And well, that was the reason. So it is April 13th, but this is the April 12th edition. So we're going to pretend like time stopped. And I was speaking from an April 12th perspective on this show, and I've labeled it April 12th because I was really mad. I wanted to get it done. But first of all, yeah, over the weekend we saw that Dwayne Haskins passed away, and it is tragic. It is sad. But of course, in our culture and on social media, we go to a place immediately where, okay, there's got to be a victim and a villain, and we've got our victim. Now we need a villain, and so the villain became Adam Schefter, and to a larger extent, lesser extent, maybe Gil Brandt. But Gil Brandt's 90. He said some stuff that, you know what, I don't know, just ignore what Gil Brandt said. But what he said was he just wasn't thinking how he phrased it. But I want to kind of, it's to some extent, I don't want to defend him fully, is Adam Schefter, because I think there's something he did that was absolutely deplorable. And it wasn't his tweet. His original tweet was Dwayne Haskins, former standout at Ohio State, who struggled in Washington and Pittsburgh, died today via getting hit on the highway. There was nothing wrong with that, folks. There's nothing wrong with it as you read it. But when somebody else starts making a big deal out of it, then all of a sudden our emotions are all swayed, and we all have to start doing groupthink and like-think. And we know what it means when everyone thinks the same. It means no one's thinking. That was an innocuous tweet. He didn't mention anything about, they brought up Colt Brennan? He died, and they mentioned that in the actual text of the tweet he used when Colt Brennan died, he mentioned his standout career in Hawaii, but he mentioned he died. He was in rehab. I didn't read anything about Dwayne Haskins being in rehab. I didn't read anything about him being wanted for murder. I didn't read anything about him having multiple children with multiple women. I just read the context of which we understood Dwayne Haskins, and people will say, well, everyone knows who Dwayne Haskins is. No, not really. The world goes by so quick now because we are so caught up on social media. The news cycles change. You could post a story on your social media site or website. I'd write a column for Mid Valley Sports back in the day, and on a Monday, and by Thursday, people would still be asking me about it. But if I posted that same column today, or even towards the end of my run at Mid Valley Sports on a Monday at noon, by Monday at 5, it was old news, because the cycle just keeps going and the world keeps moving on. And Dwayne Haskins was a number one pick, but he was a middle round number one pick. He was drafted in the teens. He wasn't first overall. And he did flame out in Washington because he shouldn't have been a number one pick. That was kind of the whole Washington issue that forced him into that position. Then, of course, if he's number one, he's got to play, and he wasn't ready to play. Pittsburgh gave him a shot, and Pittsburgh held on to him, thinking maybe they might have something down the road. So I didn't read anything negative in Adam Schefter's tweet. And then all of a sudden I saw everyone else getting mad, and I'm like, wait a second. I'm not the only fringe person here, or odd thinking person, or different thinking person here. And it's the narrative. We all get swept up. And all Schefter did was contextualize how the public knew Dwayne Haskins, because the world goes on so fast. And he just said, hey, yeah, he struggled. All he said was he struggled. Jim Lampley, 35 years ago, when Pete Maravich died, talked about Pete Maravich's struggles as he broke the news, even went so far as to describe him as a Van Gogh, and Van Gogh was nuts. Uh, and I can remember when Chris Henry died, the Bengals wide receiver, the same things were said. Anytime someone passes, the standard is you text us who they were and what part what part they played in the social structure, and that's what Schefter did. Now, I'll tell you what Schefter did that was worse. He apologized. Rule number one, okay? This is Joe T 101. If you haven't done anything wrong, do not apologize. But when you apologize, it just makes you weak, and your apology will never be enough. And you have to know this. I just they are the scum of the earth in a lot of these media quarters, because what they are sports people involved in sports that want to be taken seriously. So they drift into social matters, and they want to be bringing change, and they want to be bringing all this. They are frauds, and they are deluded, and they are insecure. I rubbed elbows with these people, right? To a lesser extent, I worked with some of them, but not really worked tightly with some of them. But I sat with them in press boxes, and there's this whole need to be taken seriously and thoughtful, and we're going to bring about social change instead of just saying who scored, when, and how, right? And so ESPN is the queen mother of dirtbag sports journalism, and of course, I have no doubt that once the Twitter mob started doing its thing with Schefter, that they said apologize or we're going to suspend you. And of course, Schefter, because he's someone you never want to be in a foxhole with, he apologized. For what? For just saying that, he was a standout at Ohio State and he struggled in the NFL. That's all he said. Didn't say anything bad about his character, but he contextualized Haskins' career, and then he became the devil. And then I felt he became a loser when, in this situation, when he apologized. Unless you know you've done something wrong in this culture, unless you're absolutely sure, don't apologize, because it's never enough. All an apology is cutting open your hand or leg with blood and letting yourself go in the ocean, waiting for the sharks to come in and devour the rest of you. They are never satisfied. And so it is tragic. It's so funny is that everyone's saying, oh man, no one cares about Dwayne Haskins. Let me tell you, when you turn Dwayne Haskins' death into Adam Schefter being the devil, you don't care about Dwayne Haskins. And I heard some of the sports media over the weekend getting all, oh, this is such a tragedy, and oh, this is this. For 40 seconds, they talked about Dwayne Haskins, right? For another 4 minutes, they talked about Adam Schefter being the devil. And then you know what they did the rest of the day? They laughed, they joked, that's my boy, that's my guy, that's my team. And they just moved on. Moved on. So that's my take on that. In better news, really happy for Troy Reeder, the former Ram, played all these years with the Rams, got on the field, was more than a special teamer, got a ring, made contributions. Really happy that Troy Reeder made it to a second contract. Now, I know it's not a big contract with the Chargers, but for a guy that was undrafted out of Delaware, he's actually, I think in his whole career combined, right, which would probably be his best years, he made about $1.7 million playing for the Rams. He made just under $2 million. I don't know, maybe there was some bonuses that got him over the top, but he didn't make a lot of money. And now he's got a second contract. He'll probably make about $2 million. And good for him. He is the epitome of what hard work and not giving up is. And so good for Troy Reeder. And so he's with the Chargers. He gets to hook up with Joseph Sebastian Day. He gets to go up to Brandon Staley. And so good for him, right? The next big thing here is I'm working back on April the 12th is the Tyrann Mathieu, Stephon Gilmore, the safety in the corner. There's talk of the Rams. Who wouldn't be interested in these guys? I get it. But they're both pushing 30. They're both, if not 30, and they both cost a lot of money compared to what the Rams have. And you said the Rams have talked to Mathieu. There's interest. They've talked to Gilmore. There's interest. Of course, there's interest. Everyone's got interest in great players. But I would just say let's just slow down a little bit, because I don't see the Rams signing either one of them prior to the draft. I'm not sure if it's June 1st or in May. What it is that you don't lose a compensatory pick for signing one of these guys, because they weren't cut by their teams. They're just free agents. And if you sign them now, you have to give a compensatory pick, and the Rams are dining on those compensatory picks. And honestly, if the whole NFL was burning for Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, and Stephon Gilmore, wouldn't they have been signed already? No one wants to pay that price. I wouldn't want to pay 10 rocks for those guys a year. I just wouldn't. There's just no way. But again, the Rams have a way of they're like the Feds. They create money, right? And they spread money around. So I don't know how they do it, but the Rams will find a way. Again, I've said it before, is what I've read, and I'll take correction. The Stephon Gilmore is more built in the mode of Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey's better, but he's a cover guy, and we play a lot of zone. And it would be interesting, would they modify the defense for Stephon Gilmore? They didn't modify the defense for Darius Williams, who thrived better in a man-to-man than he did in a zone, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens if they did sign Stephon Gilmore. Tyrann Mathieu, again, who wouldn't want Tyrann Mathieu? Man, the guy makes plays, but for how much, right? And everything, you could use him. Great, fantastic. Is he better than? I keep Jordan Fuller, but is he better than over the long haul than Taylor Rapp and Nick Scott, both going to be free agents after this year? Yeah. We can't even mention Terrell Burgess. I like Terrell Burgess, but the Rams don't. So the Rams are 4 deep at safety. 2 of them are free agents. And so we don't know what the Rams move is going to be. I think they're going to draft a safety someplace in the draft. But yeah, of course, who wouldn't want Tyrann Mathieu? He's a younger, better version of Eric Weddle right now, right? You can actually get a full season out of him, where you got a January out of Eric Weddle. So as you see these things now, if the Rams don't sign these guys, I see Mathieu more than I see Gilmore. It's becoming more apparent, and I'm convinced that the Rams are going to look at a cornerback at the 104 slot in the draft. It just seems like, yeah, that's what they're going to do. Unless they package some things and move up, but let's just say they stick at 104. I see them drafting a corner and then interior lineman. That's where I think they're going to go. But then again, I think everybody was certain last spring the Rams were going to draft an off-ball linebacker at number 57, and instead it was Tutu Atwell. So it's the Rams, right? They could probably draft another receiver, at 104. You just don't know what the Rams are going to do, and that's okay. That's okay, but it's fun to speculate. I find the Rams draft far more interesting than if they had a slew of number ones, because it just keeps us studying, and it keeps us familiar with names and players. And so when we see them hook up, we're going to say, oh, yeah, I remember those guys. I saw Anthony Schwartz with Cleveland. Rams interviewed him. I saw Dwayne Eskridge with Seattle. Rams interviewed him twice. And you just see these familiar names, and you have some familiarity when they come into the NFL, and they're not strangers. And again, because the NFL moves so fast, right? Because it is April 12th, I want to nail off a couple of things that happened in Ram history that are significant as we hit the 13-minute mark. On that date, on April 12th, 1995, the Rams lost Marquez Pope, safety, signed a free agent deal with the San Francisco 49ers. Do you remember Marquez Pope? Yeah, he wasn't too bad. But the Rams got a second-round compensatory pick from the 49ers for that signing, number 62 overall. They drafted on a guy named Jesse James, and because you don't know who Jesse James is obviously didn't work out, right? Obviously, it wasn't the Cowboy, and so that was interesting. I thought that they got a second-round pick for Marquez Pope. In 2007, the Rams signed Donnie Jones, punter. Remember the left-handed punter, the left-footed punter? He had some nice years there in those dark days, and I think he was with Philly when they won their Super Bowl. I could be wrong. And then on April 12th, 2017, the Rams exercised the 1-year option on Aaron Donald's contract, which paid him $7 million in 2018, right? Great. Good job, Rams. But the team also smartly declined the option on Greg Robinson, who had been the second overall pick in that same draft that Donald was taken in. And Greg Robinson is currently making license plates, I think, in a Texas prison. Life did not go well for Greg Robinson. But then again, oops, I guess I'm Adam Schefter. I'm the devil, because I contextualized how bad Greg Robinson's career was and such. But so I guess we can't do that. Of course, on Hard Knocks, you can't even show players being cut anymore. I don't know why they call it Hard Knocks. It's the softest show on TV. And anyone that wants to make a Hard Knocks version where they actually show the players getting cut and what they actually go through, instead they hide the fact that, the players, that we don't want to dehumanize them and show them getting cut and all this. Hey, you know what? the football world is brutal, and the NFL doesn't really care about these players. And I think it's best that everybody know that ahead of time. In the sense that when kids are dreaming, it's like you go into that NFL bubble there, that you should be able to see that, yeah, it's a business. They're going to keep you as long as you are viable, and when you're not viable, they're going to move on. That you're not set for life because you've been drafted in the NFL. You're not set for life because you got that first contract, and the stuff that talks about the NFL. Uh, when it avoids those things is doing a disservice. And so yeah, I'm not real big on Hard Knocks these days. I'm not real big on the Twitter mob. I'm not real big on Adam Schefter telling a straightforward tweet and then apologizing for it because he's scared of the moguls that be. And sometimes when you see these things, it would be best for our leagues, all of them, MLB, NBA, NHL, maybe not the NHL, I don't know, and NFL, for them to take a massive hit. They take a massive hit and then be reborn as what they were before to some degree, but better and stronger. Because there's a lot of fraud in there. There's a lot of illusion. There's a lot of stuff that they don't want to talk about, and I think they should be talking about it. And that is that it's a rough game, that it's a brutal game. Players make it and players don't make it, and the high school kids and the college kids seeing it should know they're going to throw you in the street the second you can't play. Doesn't mean I don't love the game. Doesn't mean they don't have a good product, but it's the reality of the product. So anyway, and that reality also meant, I'm going to wrap up with this, was that on April 12th, 1978, Roman Gabriel signed a contract with the Rams. It wasn't, I think I'm trying to get the sense of it. He's listed as signing a contract, but he really, I think it was just a workout contract or a look-see contract. He had finished his career in Philadelphia, and he still felt like he wanted to play a little bit. And guess who had signed with the Rams to be their head coach in 78? George Allen. George Allen had come home. Chuck Knox, after the Mud Bowl disaster at the Coliseum against the Vikings, left. He was too boring, remember? And the Rams brought back in George Allen and much fanfare and everything. But George Allen is George Allen. I love George Allen. But George Allen's going to run his ship. And he wasn't going to work with Don Klosterman or Carroll Rosen. He was going to tell them what he was going to do. And one of the things that George Allen wanted to do was bring Gabriel in as a third-string quarterback and have him also moonlight as the quarterback coach for Ferragamo and Pat Hayden. Actually, it was Hayden, then Ferragamo. And Gabriel was open for it, and they made him do a couple of workouts, and I guess he was okay. But then Klosterman and Roseman really didn't want him, and he was going to take a roster spot. Remember, the roster spots in those days were, I think when I first started watching football were 40, then it went to 42, then it went to 49. I think it was at 53, and they'd eliminated taxi squads by 78. So he was going to take up a roster spot. And a lot of teams didn't really keep a third string quarterback in those days. And Allen was looking at a possibility of a double duty type of punter kicker. I think he was actually looking at former Ohio State guy Tom Skildaney and playing with that idea of making him double duty so he can keep a third quarterback on the roster. Glenn Walker had been the Rams punter in 77 out of USC. He was awful. And they had yet to draft Frank Corral, who they eventually drafted and such. But what was really interesting is that, the Klosterman and the Rams that be, they didn't want Gabriel. And apparently they didn't want George Allen. I think once he got in the room, they realized that George Allen's personality is just too strong. He's going to take control. And by the second preseason game, which I was at George Allen's last preseason game, and the Rams lost, and George Allen was given the boot, and he was gone. And then the Ray Malavasi era began. Within a year, Carroll Rosenblum was dead. Soon after, Don Klosterman was diminished, and the whole Ram debacle into Georgia began with that weird anomaly of them making it to the Super Bowl in 1979 and such. But yeah, the Rams circus kind of began with George Allen being fired. But prior to that, there was this flirtation and this desire to bring back Roman Gabriel, and that was an interesting thing. In fact, if you look at your tops, you can go online and look it up. If you look at your tops 1978 football cards, there's a Roman Gabriel card, and they got him imaged in with Ram colors around, just a face shot of Roman Gabriel with the Rams in the 78 Topps cards. That's how close it was to getting done, and everyone assumed it was going to get done. I vaguely remember it. The card reminded me of it, and then I was just studying some Ram history, and it kind of spoke about it. Cool. So it is 20 minutes into the show. Sped through this show because it is April the 12th, but technically it's April 13th. I'm Joe Terosian. This is my book, Tangent Dreams. It's a high school football novel. I've written several novels. That's how I supplement my income. I also pastor a small church in Burbank, and you can find all that on Amazon. Thanks for your clicks. Thanks for your likes. Please leave your questions, your thoughts, and I'm happy to respond. God bless and take care.